Ladies and gentlemen, K-Swope! Thank you, everybody. I am your host for the evening, K-Swope, and we are getting in, ladies and gentlemen, to ranking every movie that came out in 2025. Now, let's waste no more time and go straight into the second worst film, being...
Don't stop believing.
So we're going to have some more rules to this, by the way. I'm just letting you know, we're just going to sprinkle that in as we go. But I'll go ahead and dive right in. Electric State is not good, per se. The biggest shame about this film is that it should have been good, and it just wasn't. I mean, the material was there, the idea was there, and it just ended up feeling really bland and boring, and they wasted so much talent. I mean, you got Chris Pratt and Millie Bonnie Bon Jovi, which, by the way, is her legal name now, in case you didn't know that. But Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, should have been great, okay? And I was looking forward to it. I saw it, and I'm like... it was boring. It couldn't keep my attention, and it was not good. It's a real shame because the Russo brothers are definitely talented. It's just so odd that they just can't launch anything, and they ended up crawling back to Marvel with, Avengers Doomsday and everything like that. That's going to be coming out here soon. So, real shame. Electric State. I'm not going to give a full review. I'm not going to give a full review on all of these, by the way. Just give you my brief couple-minute thoughts. But I will be saying we will be crowning some winners, okay? We're going to be giving them this coveted prize, which is just a random trophy that I pulled off my shelf, okay? It's a Carnival Cruise trophy, but it's metaphorical. But here's what's going to be going on. That was the second worst movie I saw this year. We're actually going to be working my way backwards from worst to best movies. We're going to be ranking them. I saw about 23 movies this year. I'm actually going to save the worst movie to second to last. So right before we talk about the best movie, we'll talk about the worst. So this was the second worst, Electric State. We can only go up from here. This whole list is in my opinion, okay? And that's very, very important because there's going to be some controversy. I know there's going to be a lot of controversy with the next one right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is controversial. K-pop Demon Hunters. I didn't care for it. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad movie per se, but I'm definitely saying that it's not one that I enjoyed, and I don't have any desire to go and watch it again. This is why I had to put that disclaimer in about my opinion here, because I get people like it, but I don't. The animation, pretty cool, I gotta say. The animation style is really, really well done, but I just don't really like the characters. I don't like K-pop. I don't like a whole lot of like Japanese aesthetic or like anime, anything like that. So none of that appealed to me at all in this film. Call me a red-blooded American, but like when they start singing and they just throw other languages in that I don't understand, I don't like that typically unless it's Gangnam Style, okay? Gotta love Gangnam Style. I mean, if they were throwing some Spanish in, I would get that, because I guess I just know more Spanish. But again, this is all about me personally. I don't know the first thing about K-pop, Korean pop, other than BTS exists, and so do a few other bands. Like, I think Blackpink is one of them, and that's all I can name as far as, those go. Psy, Gangnam Style, whoop, whoop, whoop. But personally, I didn't like this film. I did not enjoy it, so that's why it is here in third to last place. Next, we have what's gonna possibly be another very, very controversial one with... Now, there's a lot to break down here. Minecraft, okay? I like Minecraft as much as the other guys, okay? Like, I don't love Minecraft. I'm in a bit of a sour spot with Minecraft right now, personally. This film had some moments that were crazy and kind of fun. Jack Black is always fun to see, and Jason Momoa's character stole the show, in my opinion. He was my favorite part of this whole film. However, it's just not very good. The movie's a big meme, basically. I don't know if it tried to be a meme or if it just kind of became one, but it was basically a big meme. It was like the movie of the summer for a lot of people. And for me, it didn't vibe with me. I didn't click with it. It's just okay. I just don't find it that appealing or that funny. So, yeah, a Minecraft movie, not much more to say. We're going to keep moving on. Actually, before we do that, I want to say, I got to put categories together unofficially. So these couple of movies we just talked about, okay, and the worst movie we'll talk about at the end of the video, that is the bad category. We'll put it like that. And again, this is my opinion, meaning I did not enjoy it. I don't want to watch it again. Bad category. The next category is going to be the meh category, where it's like, it was all right. Like, it was okay. I didn't love it, but it was like, eh. They're kind of the movies that sort of did nothing for me, if that makes sense. Or if they did a little bit, I mean, that's kind of it, I guess. So starting off the meh category, we've got... So this is a really interesting movie to talk about. And I didn't like this movie for a handful of reasons, okay? It was that the book Frankenstein is already, dare I say, a near perfect story. and so you can't really improve upon it. So the changes they made in this film, although they weren't inherently bad, they really just felt unnecessary. And I just was sitting there the whole time thinking to myself, the way the book handled this was better. And that's because how I thought about every single change that they made. I'm like, they didn't need to change it. It's, again, you can't improve perfection, and that's my biggest gripe with this film. I mean, the acting was fine. It was just okay. I mean, it was meh, okay? And that's why it's here. Again, it's not a bad movie per se, but I didn't really enjoy it either. And I just think stick to the book or stick to a more faithful adaptation of the source material, because I think that's a lot more worth your time. This movie's 2.5 hours, or is it 3 hours? 2.5. It's about 2.5 hours. And it just didn't do it for me. Didn't do it for me. But the next film we've got for you guys is...
So give me Novocaine.
Now, Novocaine's a movie that I heard about. I saw the trailers, and I'm like, that looks pretty good. And I went to actually go down and watch it, and I was like, little disappointed. And again, it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just that it just didn't do anything for me. There's definitely some like gross out humor, sort of gross out humor. Definitely gross out humor. There's a lot of just gross gore effects and things like that, because, you know, it's a guy that can't feel pain, and he just kind of does some really crazy stuff, which is an interesting concept for a film, and that's kind of why I was excited for it. But the twist at the end, it was predictable for me. I kind of saw that from the get-go, because I'm like, this just seems a little too perfect, and then lo and behold, it was. You know, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But it was just meh. And I love Jack Quaid, and it's kind of disappointing because I've got, I think, like 2 Jack Quaid films on this, and the next Jack Quaid movie that I have that's on in 2025 is the next on this list, being...
And I don't want the world to see me.
So Companion was a pretty alright film. I did not have, you know, any major gripes with it. I mean, it was just kind of okay. It was interesting. It at least kept my attention. I can give it that much. I think my biggest problem with it is it was not fully dystopian. You had the girlfriend, Iris, who's, you know, a robot. She's an android, and they think, hey, you know what? Let's frame Iris for a murder, and let's take all of the rich guy's money. Well, that doesn't work out because she gains some level of sentience and is able to, you know, keep that from happening. However, the place where it kind of gets me is, in my opinion, if you're going to do something set in reality, set in the real world, you have to really sell it. You have to really make it, like, realistic. You know, that's kind of my shtick, if you will. So if we're doing, like, Star Wars, like, yeah, Star Wars has its own set of rules, so that's all fine. But this is set in the real world where there's just these companion bots, and I'm thinking to myself, no, it doesn't work for me. It feels too convenient, you know, in the plot. They can just kind of do whatever they want whenever they need to, and I wasn't feeling that, I wasn't digging it. I was not a big fan of the companion bot concept, and so for that reason, the companion movie sort of didn't hit for me, because the concept was not really dragging me in. I didn't really find it believable or interesting, and it didn't do that throughout the runtime, which is very unfortunate. But Companion, it was okay. I mean, not that it was bad or anything, it just was not for me. But moving on to our next pick, we have... Mama tried to raise me better. This movie's an interesting one. I was just bored one day, and I pulled up Hulu, and I saw this, and I'm like, oh, what the heck? And I just turned it on. I didn't realize it came out this year until the film was over, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I gotta throw this one on my ranking. So, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Fun fact, I did not see the original before I went and saw this, and it was solid. I mean, it was okay. I mean, it was, like, decent. I didn't hate it. You know, I was interested the whole time. I just, you know, I think the original was better, if you ask me. I feel like this version tried to force the modernness onto the audience, and it just didn't really hit as well. I just think the original one was just so much more thorough, and it had Ernie Hudson in. Okay, I love Ernie Hudson. Good for you, Ernie. But I mean, yeah, if you've seen the first one, the original one, you get an idea of what happens in this one. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar, just modernized with, you know, some more modern actors, modern faces, things like that. So, it was okay. Moving on, we have got... This film was one that I almost coughed up the money and went to go see in theaters, but I didn't. And I eventually went and saw it on Netflix. And Hard Eyes, it was okay. I mean, it feels just like Scream, but during Valentine's. And I feel like that's a problem, because when you're trying to do a Scream-esque movie, usually they kind of fail for me, in my opinion. I think a better Scream-esque Valentine's movie is My Bloody Valentine, specifically the 2010, I think it is one, the 3D one. Even though it's really like corny at some points, the plot is actually really interesting with a lot of twists and turns. So I recommend that over this. But Hard Eyes, yeah, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't like offensive in any manner, but it didn't really like innovate either, and that's kind of why it's here. It didn't really do much for me. I mean, that's what this category is all for. I think the cast of this film was pretty great. I will say that. I think they all did really, really good jobs, but that's really the highest praise I can give it, because other than that, it just felt sort of like a nothing burger to me, and it is what it is. It's just okay. Like I said, we got a really interesting one that I wish I could put higher on here, but it is what it is, and that just so happens to be...
Give me something to believe in.
Now, I love Tron, okay? I love the Tron series. I love the Tron lore a lot, too. And this film was just all right. I don't like Jared Leto, so him in the role did nothing for me. And, I mean, I got to see the Tron stuff again, which was cool. Evan Peters really stole the show for me. I did a full review of this one you guys can check out, too. But overall, it was just kind of okay. I mean, again, didn't love it. Really, I didn't hate it. I mean, it definitely is not a bad movie, but it's not a great one either. I mean, I'd still prefer Tron Legacy over all the Tron films. This one is just all right. And I'm a little confused. Like I said, I did a review you guys can check out. I don't really understand a few things with the world building and kind of what's going on. Just some questions that I have that I didn't feel like got answered well enough for me. But, I mean, that's kind of it. Again, it's a okay Tron movie. I mean, I think it's a little better than the first Tron. The first Tron's kind of rough to try to watch, if you ask me, to be quite honest. I'm not a big fan of the first one. Legacy's amazing, though. This one, I mean, it's easier to watch than the first one, if you ask me. But, again, it's just kind of all right. For our next pick, we have some business to take care of.
Brass monkey, that funky monkey, brass monkey junkie.
Business. Now, The Monkey was very, very interesting, and I was kind of surprised, because I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I just kind of saw it, and I'm like, this movie came out this year. It looks interesting enough, so I gave it a watch. And yeah, it was all right. I'm not complaining too bad. I mean, it's where it is because it's a bit of a sleeper for me, okay? Meaning, like, I didn't expect anything from it, and then I watched it, and I was like, that was all right. Now, didn't knock my socks off, didn't reinvent the wheel, but it was a thoroughly interesting enough film. And I, had a good time with it. It kept my attention, and that's, I guess, the important thing. So that's why The Monkey is where it is here. I'm not going to get too far into things with that, but there you have it. I will say we are now moving into the next category, starting with this next film. This next category I like to call...
Pretty good.
We were starting off this category with a film that, to be quite frank, I thought I was going to hate, and then I watched it, and I was like, that actually was not as bad as I thought. I was pleasantly surprised. That one being...
I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life.
Now, The Roses, I didn't know this going into this, too, but it's actually a remake of The War of the Roses, or whatever that film's called, with those other actors, which is very descriptive, I know. I had no clue that movie even existed, really, before I saw this one, and then I was on Hulu, and I'm like, oh, this film looks like it's got the same premise as that film I just watched. Oh, wait a minute. It's the same thing. There's going to be a very pessimistic look on marriage and like, oh, these married couple hate each other and blah, 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 blah. But I actually think it's the opposite, come to be honest. I think what happens is with marriage, I'm not married, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But from what I know about marriage, from what I've heard, is that it is a give and take, okay? It is, you have to give your 100% each day. That's the plan, okay? And then when your spouse is unable to give 100%, you have to make up that, okay? So it's not always 100%. Sometimes it is 90, 110. Sometimes it's 40 and 160, okay? And you got to keep going back and forth. And there's no real room for selfishness in that, okay? And that's very, very fascinating. And that is the fault that we have. That's the character flaws between this married couple in this film, is that they both are making certain choices, behaving in certain ways out of selfishness. And that's what ultimately causes the downfall of their marriage, and then the whole thing just kind of goes up in smoke, quite literally. Either way, it does get insane how escalated things get, and so that makes it a really, really entertaining watch. And so The Roses, pleasantly surprised. I gotta give credit where credit is due. Pretty solid film. My next pick, however, is even more solid, being...
I can't live if living is without you.
So full disclosure, I've seen one Final Destination film, the original one, before this one. So I got the premise going into it. But man, oh man, I mean, I'm not in love with this franchise or anything like that, but this installation of it was amazing, okay? And so I had a really, really good time with Final Destination Bloodlines. It's really unique too, because you have someone who just completely dodges the whole Final Destination thing the whole time and then leaves a legacy behind, and it's just absolutely insane. And so, yeah, it's very, very fun and a very interesting new expansion on the lore, and it's not really redoing the same thing over and over again. So there's a new set of rules that are based on the original set of rules in a way that makes a lot of sense, if that makes sense to you guys. And that is really fun. The kills are so creative in this film, I also gotta say, and they're kind of funny at the same time, some of them. And so, again, I had a really, really good time with this one. And there's just some, honestly, outside of like the gore and stuff, there's actually some really beautiful like architecture and like ideas and like scenery, you know, filmography that's really, really nice here. And so I quite enjoyed that. I think it was a really, really good film. I'm sure you've watched a million other YouTubers review it, and they're probably going to say the same thing. So go check it out. Final Destination Bloodlines, really, really good. Next pick. I'm almost sort of embarrassed that this one is this high for a multitude of reasons, which I'll get into after I announce to you that the film just so happens to be.
There's no place I'd rather be.
All right, hear me out. Hear me out. Lilo and Stitch, the first one, masterpiece. I love it. It's one of my favorite childhood movies, okay? This film, not as good as that one, but surprisingly, I still left the theater thinking it was still pretty good. Now, I do think that this film has some points that are stronger than the original film and some that are less strong, some plot points that are not quite as good. For example, Zach Galifianakis as Jumba. No, just no. I mean, on paper, that's not a bad idea. But then as soon as he shows up and I hear his voice at like the first part of the movie, I'm like, bro, what? That's Jumba? Nah. Lego Batman Joker is not Jumba, okay? So that was weird. I will say, though, I think they did a much better job at putting more weight on the idea that if Nani does not shape everything up with her and Lilo, that Lilo is going to be taken away by CPS. That felt a lot more heavy in this film, and I connected with that a lot more, I guess, in this film. And so that made me, you know, I guess more emotionally invested. And so that I quite appreciated and quite, I kind of say enjoyed, except that sounds kind of twisted given, you know, what it is we're talking about. But I think it was written a lot better and portrayed a lot better. But again, a lot of other nitpicks. I can just say a lot of things. Some are better, some are worse. But overall, kind of surprised. I don't even like Disney. I think Stitch looked amazing in live action. The actress that played Lilo was adorable. Okay, so again, I can't be mad at that stuff. It's funny. It's cute. I like it. Now we have another movie, ironically, that I wish was higher on this list. And that one just happens to be...
'Cause I'm a punk rocker, yes I am.
So Superman was my most anticipated film for this year, okay? And so I was looking forward to it very, very heavily. I watched it, and I left the theater, and I was like, it was good. I mean, I think it was a good film. I think that my own anticipation and hype for it may have been, you know, not good, may have kind of taken away from it, but then again, I'm sure a million of you guys could have told me that. I think the casting and performances are all fantastic in this film. I love James Gunn, love his directing, and this film made me really excited to see what's in the future of the DC universe. It's however not my favorite Superman film, not by a long shot. I'm not going to dive into that in this video, but just know that for a fact for the future. I also did a full review on this one, so I'm not going to talk much more about it. Instead, just go watch that video, okay? Just watch that right now. And then come back here, by the way. Don't just watch it and leave. No, come back. We want you back here. We got more movies to talk about, right? So this is my next pick, which is... Now, Friendship, I saw like half a trailer for it before, and then I saw it was streaming, and I was like, you know what? I like Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. I'd watch this, and so I turned it on, I watched it. Not really, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations, know what to expect. And this is a weird film, but like weird in like a fun way, kind of weird, right? Like weird, I don't know how to dissect it officially, but I do know that it is just very, very entertaining, and it's funny, and it's just all over the place, and I just think it's a generally good time, and I think, you know, it's worth your time to watch, okay? So if you get some time, this movie's on, I'd give it a recommendation. Go pop it in. Pretty good. Pretty good. And with that, by the way, that also finishes off the pretty good category, which means we're going into the final category, being great, okay? These are the films that I think were the cream of the crop that came out in 2025 that I saw, okay? I also will take this time to address now here, too. Again, I only saw 23 movies. There were some that I just didn't really want to see because I didn't care enough, or ones that I wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to see. For example, The Toxic Avenger, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I didn't get a chance to see any of those, which is very, very unfortunate. Movies I didn't want to see would be movies like Sinners, okay? I just not digging that. Just not my thing, not my scene. People say it's good, okay, maybe, but I don't care. There were some films I didn't see this year, so if you guys want to leave a comment, give me a film that I did not see that is not on this list, and I will tell you if it either belongs in the I wanted to see it list or I did not want to see it list. So have fun down there. But I digress. You want to know what the first great movie is, and that just so happens to be...
Just see those sleigh bells jingling, ring, tingle, tingling too.
So this film I saw trailers for. I think I saw the first trailer for it when I was in the theaters, and I was like, hey, you know what? That looks like a fun film. And then I never went to see it. I did, however, see it on Paramount Plus just a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I watched it, and I'm like, you know, this was a fun / well-made movie, okay? Channing Tatum is this crook who's escaped jail, and he's hiding out in a Toys R Us. This takes place in, like, the early 2000s at some point. And so, for one, nostalgia through the roof, okay? And for two, it's just fascinating seeing how someone lives using only supplies found inside a Toys R Us, okay, for the most part at least. I mean, the film, it progresses, things change, he doesn't need to solely live off that kind of stuff, but it is still really, really fascinating and fun to see, and the idea and the concept's just really, really fun. And then, of course, this film's also really, really great at getting you invested in the characters, and so, like, Channing Tatum's character, our main character, I was super invested. Like, they made it just supernatural, super easy for me to be invested in his character. Kirsten Dunst's character, also easy to get invested in her. And it's just really, really great to see. It was just very, very well written. And I would just definitely give it 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend Roofman. Very good time. Very, very good movie. The next one is a pleasant surprise, to be quite honest, because I did not like any of the movies previously in this film series, and so I'm amazed that I actually like this one. And that, of course, being... So Knives Out, let's talk about it for a minute here, because I kind of need to explain myself. I did a whole video reacting to the trailer of this film when it first came out, and I kind of explained myself there, but I saw the first one. It was okay. I didn't really like it that much. I still don't like it that much. The bad guy was obvious, and it was just a whole, just not very well-written mystery, if you ask me. There was no way I could have figured it out or solved it beforehand. It was just way too crazy for that. I didn't like that one. Glass Onion, a lot of people also didn't really like. I liked it more than the original personally, but I also think that I hate how in the middle of the film they just kind of be like, hey, we have all of this backstory we didn't tell you about, by the way, and then just kind of roll with it. Was not a fan of that at all. I also solved Glass Onion before the characters did. I mean, maybe not it in its entirety, but I've solved, who killed Dave Bautista. That was easy, obvious for me. But Wake Up Dead Man, this was very, very interesting and much better for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, let me back up. So for one, this one's taking place at a Catholic church. I don't know if they have a special name for their church services or buildings and stuff, cathedral, whatever. Anyways, a priest, the head priest, dies, okay? He is murdered, and they're trying to figure out who it is. His apprentice priest, okay, who clearly doesn't like him for a multitude of reasons, is the prime suspect, and he swears he did not do it, okay? And I'm convinced he did not do it. But through it, for the first, half an hour of the film, it's basically just watching him recap how they got to this point and the murder and everything like that, and showing where the conflict comes from with these two priests, right? And the younger priest, he has this idea that, we are here, we are in the world, not of the world, and we are here to spread the love of Christ, spread the message, okay? It's the sick that need a doctor, not the healthy, right? And that's biblical. That makes sense. I completely agree with this guy. However, some of the other priests and the priest who's played by Thanos, okay, they don't agree with that. And so there's some conflict there. They think, hey, the world is our enemy and this, and that. And it is in a sense. Don't get me wrong. It definitely is. But we are supposed to kind of rise above, and we are supposed to, yes, they're our enemy, but love your enemies, right? And so that's kind of where the conflict kind of comes in, and I think they really dive into that topic and come to a very, very satisfying conclusion, in my opinion, on that. So that's great just from my own personal Christian point of view. But the actual, murder case is also really, really fantastic in this film. And I think part of the reason it's fantastic is this too, because you can figure it out if you watch the movie and you think hard, but they don't feed it to you in a way that's super easy, right? So I really like the one clue where he's looking at the photo in the bar and he's seeing the little devil heads on the lamps. And one detail that we don't notice as an audience, but is there and you can notice it, and it's super easy, is that the devil head is missing off both of the things, not just the one. And I'm not going to spoil the movie for you anymore past that. But you can still figure that out, and that can still make a lot of sense to you, and that plays into the plot. But also, Daniel Craig doesn't even solve the case. And I think that is really, really unique because it's an impossible crime. You have to kind of see it just to figure it out yourself. And he actually lets the person who did orchestrate the whole thing confess it and tell us the whole story. So I think that Daniel Craig's dude, I forget what his character name is, but I think that he probably knew what happened, but he intentionally did not do it so that the person who orchestrated the whole thing could say. And I think that really helps with a lot of the mystery elements because you have the actual person in charge of it telling you what they did. And I'm not going to say who it was, but it's very, very, I think, well written, very, very interesting. And again, I had a really good time with it. I'm pleasantly surprised. Wake Up Dead Man. It's all right in my book. Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering the top 5 movies that I have seen this year. And starting us at number 5, we have our last horror movie being Now, Weapons is very interesting. I was immediately intrigued by it from the trailers, mainly because, this might sound weird, I've had nightmares before with similar imagery to this film, and I was immediately intrigued about it because of this. So, I don't know what that means. If you have an opinion, let me know, tell me. So I was in the theater with some friends, and I did do a review on it, so I'm not going to get too big into it, but it was surprisingly funny and surprisingly scary at the same time. And if you look and see the dynamics of how humor and horror are, and there's a balance there, they kind of follow the same rules, but with different ingredients, if that makes sense. There's the setup, the punchline, sometimes there's a misdirection in there, and the same kind of logic applies to both horror and comedy. And so you really get to see that balance worked out in this film. But it was very solid, and this actually, I just realized there's 2 Josh Brolin movies back to back on this. I forgot that he was in Weapons until I was just thinking about this right now. But either way, really, really good. I was thoroughly impressed, and so I had a really, really good time with Weapons. It was a fun time seeing it in theaters with my friends, and that easily makes it the best horror movie that I have seen this year. So, because I have a full review, I'm not going to say much more. Go check that out if you want to know more opinions on Weapons. But in the meantime, we have another movie that I did a full review on, which just so happens to be Again, because I did a full review on Thunderbolts, I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but it was pretty good. Marvel is definitely taking their films more seriously now and trying to put quality over quantity, and I really saw that in this film and was very happy that that was the case. Really fun team. It's sort of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque, but not at the same time, and so again, I like it. The themes are fun, the ideas are fun, and the conclusion, what happens at the end, is also really fun to see. Like I said, there's a review. Go watch if you want to see more about this film. And to be fair, now I'm looking at my list here. The rest of these movies I have reviews on. So go check all of those out. However, the next one, this movie was probably the funnest movie, except for maybe the first one, the winner, the best film of the year. And this film just so happens to be So the first Nobody, I absolutely loved. Okay, I thought it was really, really good. I love Bob Odenkirk. And so the second one I was super excited for, and I was really, really happy to see it. And this film delivered, if you ask me. It did everything that I wanted a sequel to Nobody to do, and I was thoroughly happy with the result. Not to mention, there's so many like fun vacation set piece action things going on in this film. For one, there's this big fight that takes place on a like little boat through a swamp, which is really like kind of like a ferry through a swamp, and that's really, really fun and really, really interesting to watch. And the final battle, they basically just like Home Alone up a water park, and that's where the whole battle takes place, and that is so fun. Okay, it's like an amusement / water park kind of thing, and it is just so fun to watch. The whole thing is just a fun thrill ride, and I have a really, really good time with Nobody too. Again, full review is up. Go check that out if you'd like, but there you have it. Moving on, the second best movie of 2025, in my personal opinion, is I mentioned Marvel stepping up their game. This is another great example of that. Fantastic Four, first steps. I like the Fantastic Four. I'm not like a huge Fantastic Four fan or anything like that, but I do like them, okay? And I've said before, I think multiple times now, that I think the best Marvel films, best superhero films generally, are ones where they take another genre or another idea that's maybe been played out before, but they apply it to superheroes, okay? And they do it well. And this film is one of those. It's got this kind of like retro future vibe, kind of like Art Deco sort of like 60s look to it, and it takes place in another universe, so it's not directly in the MCU, not yet, but you know, we'll see it in eventually. But it's sort of like, it gives me family sitcom vibes in a lot of ways, not in the same way that like WandaVision did, but also it's just, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's very, very unique, very, very different, and family's at the whole heart of this film. And I mean, the whole main conflict is Galactus wants to eat your baby, and the parents are like, no, we're going to do everything humanly possible. And literally, they go to the most humanly possible extent to keep Galactus from eating our child, which sounds insane, but is really heartwarming and very, very touching. And so I had a really good time with it. And this film, okay, and I'll say this before, if a film can move me to tears, it gets really high praise in my book. This was one of those. I was crying during this film. It was insane. The finale, just thinking about it makes you like want to like start tearing up. Like my eyes are getting a little watery right now, and I can feel it right now. It's beautiful. It's so good. I'm not going to spoil it. Go check out the review, but it's good. It's a good movie. It's pretty great. But you know what's not pretty great? I mentioned this is the time, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to crown the worst film of 2025, okay? That film, the worst film this year, is...
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Clown in a Cornfield was awful, okay? It was terrible. It was not a good movie by any means. So let me tell you a story. My friend, okay, you know who you are. I will not out said friend here. But I have a friend that says, hey, I want to see this movie and no one else wants to. And I'm like, hey, I'll go see it with you. So we go see it. And I'm like, that was terrible. It was awful. So, friend, you know who you are. I'm talking about you, okay? I goes to the movie because of you, okay? So just know that you are also here crowning with me, the worst film of 2025, okay? I hope you enjoy that. But, yeah, Clown in the Cornfield, I don't even know where to begin with how bad this movie was. So, for one, the acting was okay. I'm not going to bust on that too much. The plot was weird and confusing, and the message of the film was just really not well thought out, not well done at all. Because I'm going to spoil this movie for you, but I'm just going to do it because you have no sense in watching it because it's not worth your time. But what happens is, the clown in the cornfield, there's multiple clowns in the cornfield. The town's basically a whole cornfield, but there's sort of a hierarchy system, I guess, of these clowns. There are these old boomers who don't want to, like, move on, and they're too obsessed with tradition and stuff. And so the whole, I guess, heart of the conflict of the film is, like, new ideas versus old tradition and stuff. And it just fails at every turn because it's like, I'm still not convinced that the good guys, that their ideology is better for people. Because I feel like we see time and time again, just both in reality and in this film, that it just doesn't make sense, doesn't work. Your message completely fails in this film, and there's just nothing in this film keeping me interested. It's not really scary, it's not funny, and it's just such a massive nothing burger of just poorly thought out ideas, not well fleshed out ideas, that it's just awful. It's bad. It gets a 0 out of 10. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So, Clown in the Cornfield, you are awful. I wanted to say another insult, but I don't feel comfortable saying that on YouTube because I have younger people watching me that I'm not going to say it. Don't watch Clown in the Cornfield. It's not worth your time. It's a piece of crap. But flipping things around, going from negative to positive, we're going to crown the greatest film of 2025, okay? Now, this is a film. It was actually, fun fact, the first movie that I saw this year, if that helps you out at all. In fact, technically, some people might debate this is not a 2025 movie. I live in the United States. We did not get this film released until this year. It was back in, I think, January, if I'm not mistaken. So, that being said, I'm counting it as 2025, and that movie just so happens to be...
When's it gonna stop, DJ? 'Cause you're keeping me up all night.
Better Man is a movie that is worth your time 100%. It was fantastic. For one, it was very, very emotional, pulled at my heartstrings, okay? The characters were relatable. I felt for them. I cared about them. It was very, very important. It's based off the life of Robbie Williams, who, if you don't know, is because probably you're likely an American, but he is one of the most biggest world-famous pop stars, like, ever, okay? And for some reason, he just never really hit here in the United States. I love his music. I listened to it to prepare for this movie, and then after I saw the movie, I listened to it even more, and I love it even more. In fact, I actually own the soundtrack to this film now because it was just great, and I really, really like Robbie Williams. Really, really like his music. The big kicker, the thing that makes this not like other biopics, is that Robbie Williams is played by a CGI monkey. Everyone else is a human. He is a CGI monkey. Now, there's many reasons why they did this and many filmmaking reasons why this is genius. For one, Robbie always felt like a monkey, you know, dance monkey, play monkey, you know, do that. That's kind of what always felt him into, I guess, kind of sort of. I feel like he's an entertainer by nature, and so being a monkey, that just kind of feels natural. So there's sort of some creative meaning behind that. But it's also really fascinating because what happened was, to shoot this, they actually got away with not having certain issues because they made this choice. For one, Robbie Williams did not play himself. He voiced some narration. He did some stuff here and there. I know that they used his original vocals in the music that they had for this, but they did have another guy who sounds just like him also record some stuff for the film, so it was also really, really interesting to see. But they had a guy in a suit, and then they had a separate voice actor, okay? So they basically just took what the guy was doing in the suit, they CGI monkeyed him, they did all that. But the great thing that does is that gets around the fact that in a lot of biopics, there are a lot of people who have to play the same character throughout many different years of their life, and they just look awkward. Like, you got a guy who's in his 30s playing a teenager, and this is not the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, so it's wrong. Then you have him playing him when he's in like his 60s or whatever, and it's like, that's just heavy prosthetics and doesn't look natural and things like that. So by having a CGI monkey, the best part of that is you can just age up the monkey and make new character models for the monkey, and that kind of, it's pretty great, okay? It's pretty good. And so, again, Better Man is great. Not to mention, the guy who directed The Greatest Showman directed this, if I'm not mistaken, and the musical numbers, okay? Go look them up. Look up Rock DJ from this film. It is the greatest musical number I have ever seen in a movie, okay? Mark my words. I will be quoted saying that. I will take that to my grave unless something better comes out, because it was so amazing. I saw this in theaters. I watched that scene in theaters, and I literally, audibly said, wow. And when I'm in theaters, I'm usually like, don't say anything, be completely silent, okay? Respect everybody around you, respect me. I don't want to hear you gabbing or chewing your popcorn really loudly. I hate all that stuff. But even I broke it for this film, and dude, it's just so good. It's funny, it's heart-wrenching, it's so many things, and it's just such a fantastic. I rewatched it today, actually, before I made this video, and it is still just as good. And just, dude, like, you have to see Better Man. You really, really have to see it. So many people did not see it also, okay? You slept on it. It, like, totally bombed at the box office. But go see it. It's on Paramount Plus. It is 100% worth your time. It is such a good film. And that, guys, is the clearly definitive ranking of the movies that came out in 2025. I want to thank you guys all for watching. Of course, I am K Swope. Happy New Year, by the way. This is the last video I'm putting out before 2026 rolls in, and then I got some fun plans for January. But if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be talking a lot more about a lot of films just like the ones on this list coming down the pipeline. But it's going to wrap things up for me. I'm K Swope. Don't forget that Jesus loves you, and we will see you in the next one.